Welcome back, Soul Spiralers. And today I have Daniela LoCastro, or Dani, as we call her as well, here with me today. She is a business and alignment coach, and she helps others to rise, step into their purpose, trust their niggles. And she's been working in the field of coaching for such a long time, and recently also stepping more into working with the Gene Keys, which is all into your alignment with purpose. And I love the Gene Keys, so I'm very excited to have her here with me. And we also used to work together when we worked in corporate, so we have some background there, which I'm sure we'll hear more about Dani's story. But thank you for coming on the podcast, Dani.
And thank you so much for having me, Kristin. It's always a pleasure working with you, speaking with you. We've had many different engagements in, like you said, in different ways, but it's always lovely to connect.
Yeah, I so love that. I feel our souls are connected in some way. We always seem to bring connection through. So I've started pulling oracle cards at the start of or at the end of our podcast recordings. So I thought we could pull a card for us today and also for whoever's listening. So the deck that I'm using is called Nature's Whispers. It's a very beautiful deck. Maybe I'll have to post it on my story. And it's by Angela Hartfield and Josephine Wall. So we're going to pull a card. There's lots of butterflies on these cards. So it's very like connecting to like stepping into your true self and your most beautiful self. All right. What have we got? Gratitude and appreciation. I love that. Number 46. And there's a beautiful unicorn on the picture with a little like girl, like our inner child or something like that on there. So that's really beautiful. This actually card came up recently in a session the last time I used these cards. Isn't that funny? Happens like that, doesn't it? So let's read what it has to say. Recognize the good qualities in others and openly share your gratitude with them. Write notes of thanks to those who have helped you. If someone deserves acknowledgement, take the time to let a superior or colleague know so that they receive the recognition they deserve. Nature is continually sharing its beauty for us to appreciate. Beholding a rainbow is a gift, and when we encounter a rainbow's beauty, it is the perfect time to be grateful for all the gifts in our lives. It is important to generate the positive flow of thankfulness that can bring joy into someone else's life. By doing so, you will not only decrease your stress, you will also generate the feeling of goodwill and love in your life.
I like that. I'm very much practicing the appreciation and the gratitude of where I'm at in my life at the moment, even though it's not how I probably planned it to be. And that probably comes from our corporate days of planning and getting somewhere and going, in certain places that you predict. But thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And it's really interesting to think like, I don't remember really practicing that much gratitude when I worked at the bank. And so, yeah, it's just like, but now it's so part of our language and our experience, you and I, and the types of work that we do. So it's really beautiful to have that reminder. And I also feel so grateful for my life at the moment. So it's really beautiful. And yeah, maybe what is one thing you're grateful for today, Dani?
I'm sure we're going to talk about it later, but I am grateful for my body being able to grow a human being, which is really exciting. I'm almost 24 weeks pregnant, and I've always had body issues or body kind of a mental game with that in the past. And I think that, there's so many societal expectations on what beautiful looks like. And I think that I'm experiencing a lot of beauty within, and having gone within recently in my business, it's kind of pulling all of the pieces of the puzzle together. And instead of me looking at my body as an image, I'm looking at it as the wonderful being that it is, being able to grow another human. So I'm so grateful for that.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I think there's nothing more beautiful than a pregnant woman anyway. So thank you for sharing that. Maybe I'll share my gratitude. Yeah, my gratitude is just to be where I live and have the sunshine like shining in my life almost every day. So I feel immensely grateful for that.
And the fruits that you have up there.
The sun and the fruit. It's me summed up.
Passion of life.
So let's get into a little bit more about yourself, Dani. You want to tell us just like your breakdown of your experience to how you are who you are sitting in front of me on the Zoom today.
So like you mentioned before, we met when we both worked for one of the big four banks, and we were both in quite, HR or people type roles, which was, always quite interesting for me to look back on. So a little bit about me. I started my career in banking when I was about 22, and spent just under 10 years in various roles throughout the big organization. And I always thought that climbing the corporate ladder was where I would achieve security and success. And I was always kind of looking for something on the outside to validate who I was as a person, not in a malicious way, but more so for myself, just to kind of think that I'm doing right by society, I'm doing the right thing. And all of this kind of came up when I was made redundant for the 6th time in just under 10 years and had no option but to leave. And so it was just all before COVID when this hit, and it all kind of came crumbling down because every idea I had of success was questioned. So I had like this period of transition where, I've always wanted to run my own business. I've always wanted to have something of my own where I am serving humans in a way that feels aligned to me. And I was quite lucky in my career that, I started off in banking, but then I moved into people type roles where I was facilitating different coaching sessions or leadership sessions, and would always like take up more of the session talking about the things that lit me up. And I could see the faces of, the people in the room that were also quite interested in some of the, mindset was probably like the deepest we'd go in the bank in terms of going inward. But when I started coaching, I started coaching women who were either, and still do, were either in a place of like aspiring to wanting something of their own one day, but weren't quite ready to make the step, or also emerging business women, but in a way that is soul driven. So not just, strategy and this is the way forward and how do we kind of scale and grow. And all those words started to feel icky to me because that's not what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for more money. I was looking for more freedom. And I think when I was younger, I always thought more money was freedom.
Yeah. It's interesting how that's like been so ingrained in us because perhaps the generations before didn't have very much because they didn't also have maybe as much money as we have going around the world right now. And so then it just becomes indoctrinated that like money makes the world go round and, the money equals success or success equals money, all those sorts of things, especially working in banking. Like you're literally like in, it's so funny. But I just love that you have stepped more into that space of tapping into like this soul medicine or this connecting people with their dharma or just helping people find their purpose. And I really think that the world needs more of that. So it's just so powerful. What do you feel like I remember you asking me this question a while back. What do you feel like your purpose is fully, or your dharma?
I feel like and I know we're going to talk about this later when we talk about gene keys, but something that I've learned purpose isn't something is accomplished. It's more something that's like work, and I feel like it constantly is an evolving piece. I once thought when I first started this work that it was like, this is your purpose, not in terms of a role title or anything like that, but more so like probably a bit more straightforward than I thought it would be. But then when I started diving deep into the work, and depending on where I was at in my business or who I was serving, it would always be something different to me. But I think for me, my purpose is helping people light themselves up. So helping people understand or peel back the layers of the onion, so to speak, so they can get to the core essence of who they are. And I think with my experience in coaching and being able to kind of dive deeper, go inward and really uncover conversationally, and pull it for people to pull at different threads that maybe they've never really spoken about before or said out loud. I love to be able to provide space for people to be able to do that. And I think that my approachable or energetic, or however you want to call it, nature really helps people soften and do that.
Yeah. So I really love that sort of perspective of like this transient experience of connecting with purpose, and how it does shift and mold depending on the circumstance that you're in, and depending on what tools you have in that moment, shines a different light to the things that you do within that. I think that's really freeing to hear as well, because it's like people are trying to find their specific purpose, but perhaps when that changes and shifts and evolves, as you change and shift and evolve as we do day to day, month to month, year to year, like there's just so much freedom in that. And it sounds like the Gene Keys has helped you maybe tap into a little bit more of that life's work experience of the purpose, rather than being rigid in what it looks like.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, like to me, when I think about masculine and feminine dynamics, purpose is quite feminine and flowy, and I think I was doing it as something that was quite masculine. But if I separate the two, I think the business that I work in, being my purpose, is the masculine front, but the ever-evolving, flowing purpose that runs through that, the essence of it would be quite feminine. And I think that so long, I was operating in such a masculine type of way, especially working in the bank. It was quite, structured. And I think I threw it all away, thinking that I just wanted to be this kind of feminine, flowy person. And I've learned so much about myself in the feminine dynamic. But I think really bringing in an empowered masculine as well as an empowered feminine is really important for any kind of life's work or business, or just even in day to day, really.
Yeah, definitely. We have the moon that is like our thoughts, and when we sleep and we dream and we have all those experiences of like connecting with our emotions, and then the sun is who we show up in the light and express. It's like we've got to have the balance of both the sun and the moon in our purpose, if we want to articulate it with that word.
Love that. And so, question back to you, Kristin, what do you feel, and it may have changed over time, it may not have, but when you think about purpose, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, it's something that I've been really exploring lately, and really noticing when I have received like any sort of, let's say, like appreciation, like what are the things that I really like feel embodied when I feel received like gratification for. And one of the things for me is really being like giving permission for people to just be who they want to be, and also like connecting others in like community is a really big thing. I'm such like a gatherer. Like I love gathering people together in like different contexts, and allowing a space for people to express or feel or just be who they are, like however that is in that moment. And so I want to also experience that in my own body and be like inspirational to people to do that as well, however that looks. And then part of me also like has this big connection with like health, and so like that's where I like shift. I'm like, how do these work together? And I mean, in my own clinic setting, like people always come to me to connect more with themselves and feel like okay with who they are in the world, and know that they're enough. So maybe that's really what it is. Yeah. So let's get into the Gene Keys a little bit more. Tell me a little bit more about how you first heard about the Gene Keys. What was it that attracted you? Maybe even explain a little bit about what it is, because like I love it. I know it, but I know a lot of people it's probably quite new to them.
Yeah, and I'm sure, as a tool, this is something that I want to kind of say, is that it might mean something different to everyone. So I think about it as a tool to go deeper. But Gene Keys, so last year I was probably running my business for a couple of months, and I was using tools in the past that I had used in my corporate days. So I always find that, I've learned so much about myself through different personality kind of structures and different personality, like MBTI or Facet 5 or any kind of corporate dive deeper into how your kind of brain works. And I think that I pulled those into my business, and they have a place, but at the same time, I didn't feel that they were really encapsulating the essence of the flowy side of my business. So one day I came across Richard Rudd's Spotify playlist, and he has the 4. Now, I don't know if they're not really podcasts, they're not really songs. They're like a mixture of both, where he speaks with this beautiful music in the background, and they probably go for about 15 minutes each. And I remember sitting in my room that I created. It was like a little sacred area where I used to do rituals and things like that. And I'd put my headphones in and just lie on my mat or lie on the spare bed and just really go inward. And I would literally, it was a time where I was really in my body. So I'd feel all the feelings of just like joy and like, you know, the scale of emotions, like some of those really higher type enlightened feelings where I didn't always feel that in any other part of my life. So it wasn't consistent. So it was more of a roller coaster. But anyway, I thought, what is this? This understanding of something deeper. And the words that he says was just, they really sparked something in me. Anyway, so I decided to research further into what Gene Keys was about. I think the name of the podcast, whatever it is on Spotify, is called Living Wisdom. And
yeah, it is.
Yeah, so from there I went into Gene Keys and following, got my own profile and started learning a little bit about that. Then I ordered some books and have been kind of making my way through the different books and different things that he has as resources to become a Gene Keys guide. So the ones that I've been using recently is The Art of Contemplation, which is something that I love. So instead of, you know, our corporate mind is always, what's the solution? What's the solution? But we don't sit into this field of contemplating long enough. And I really love that. That's been super helpful. I guess how I help my clients is with the, I think you've got the same one, like the big chunky Gene Keys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really helpful.
Oh, those are so good.
So good. Like, so from my hologenetic profile that's free on the website, I then go into a deeper kind of reading, and I started just doing it for myself and learning a bit about me and my purpose and the way that I show up in life and in my business. But also then I thought, well, this is an amazing tool to help other people with. So I went further with it, and that's how it kind of came into my life.
Okay. Oh, I love that. I love the Gene Keys. I don't even know. I think I like saw some girl I was following on Instagram post it on her story, and I was like, what is that? And I looked up into it, and then I bought the book like almost straight away. Yeah. And I was just like, this is so interesting because like there's the 64 codons, is it?
Yeah.
And it just felt to me like everyone experiences all of these. They're all like relating to our DNA. It's all into that I Ching stuff that I love as well. And but then you have these like main ones that kind of like show up for you, and it's like I just love anything that's flexible enough for everyone to be experiencing it, but then you still have like your main things that you can work with. So yeah, it's very cool. And like you said, you can create a free profile on the website, but then if you want an in-depth connection, Dani is your girl onto understanding.
I just love how it's a combination of different tools like astrology or, you know, a birth chart, like you said, the I Ching. And I found that, like, I love human design. It's similar to human design, but I feel like for me, it was the tool for me. I loved what I got out of human design. I just didn't think I could help other people with it. And so because, you know, my purpose is helping other people connect to who they are, I thought there's got to be something out there that's a tool that's similar to the juiciness of human design, but is something that's more aligned to me. So that's.
Yeah. And connecting to that higher purpose, like that's that whole thing with it, isn't it? So what's your favorite Gene Key at the moment? Like, what are you working with the most?
I work with, so there's two. So it's purpose comes up a lot, but also life's work. And I think that it gives people some kind of navigation. So, you know, as an example, one of my, I think it either comes up in my, well, it's actually my life's work, to be honest. And it's the shadow of superficiality. And so I can see that play out in, you know, when I started and in my career in banking, that the superficiality that I was attached to was the status of where I was in terms of the big structure of the bank. And although I didn't use it as a way to feel good compared to other people, it was a way that I could assure myself that I was doing the good things and the right things. And that's how superficiality played out for me. But then also when I started my business, I felt like I carried this attachment to superficiality, that, you know, the way that I showed up on Instagram, because it is basically a platform. Well, it was. I think it's evolving and becoming so much more awake than it ever has been. But there's an element of superficiality behind that. So I just thought that, you know, understanding this about myself and understanding that my life's work is to overcome that, it's so helpful to know that the more I let go of the attachment to superficiality, the more that I'm closer to my version of enlightenment. And it's just great to have something like that. Like I always say to my clients, it's not like you aren't it, but the tool, like if we think of a builder, you know, they have so many tools to do what they need to do. And they can create this beautiful artwork after, when they're finished. That's the same as Gene Keys for us. You know, there's tools in our toolkit that we can use to open ourselves up and really create, like I say to all my clients, the art and science of who you came here to be.
And do you feel like the Gene Keys just gives you that higher perspective of being able to kind of like see, because it has the shadow, the gift, and then the city?
Yeah,
correct. So it kind of like gives you like that shadow aspect, but then lets you kind of take a step back and see like a higher perspective, or like a new perspective of the circumstance. Is that what you find like really activates for most people? It's like, here's the solution to being able to have that higher perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like, I always say, like, it's a spectrum. And so, you know, to one end of the spectrum, and I never say like shadow is not a negative thing. It's being okay to go there and understand who you are when you're operating in, you know, a certain shadow and whatever's playing out in your life, but understand a way to move out of it. You know, I feel like a lot of people, and me myself, have been stuck in moments of time where the shadow's been quite predominant. And I think that a way to navigate out of that ickiness and really love that part of who you are as well, because you can't have the enlightened version of yourself without that. It's kind of like it's the yin to the yang. You can't have your enlightened version without encompassing the shadow.
Yeah, it's like true acceptance of like all that you are. You have to accept those parts, and that's like that unconditional love fully then coming out. You're not placing any conditions on you showing up as your best self.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's where the ego kind of, you know, dies a little bit in the way that ego shows up in a negative way. It's like, I'm not just showing this part of myself. I'm not impression managing. I'm actually encompassing all parts of myself, because without one, I can't have the other.
Yeah. And then that also like, it allows you to relate to other people in like a different level, in a sense. Makes me think of like, if you could never like appreciate and love your shadow, how could you truly appreciate and love another being? Because nobody's perfect. No. And like, we put this expectation on us being perfect, but like, our souls came here to evolve and grow and become better versions of whatever they're trying to be. But it's like this seeking of what, or believing or thinking that other people are perfect, or even that like you could be perfect. It's like, no, we're here to be at school.
Absolutely. We're here to learn.
We're here to learn.
It's called life's work for a reason. Like, there's no time. And I think this is the achiever part of me that, you know, when I was younger, I was always looking to achieve. And I think that one of the things that's had to, I've become really comfortable with is this isn't going to be a thing of achievement. It's actually working towards it for the rest of my life. And, you know, and where I bring, you know, that's the business side of things, where I bring alignment into this is, you know, how does that feel when you're working in a way that is true to who you are and who you want to be? you embody certain different types of feelings. And you know, we've got that the chakra system running through our body, and you know, when we're lit up, when we're doing things that make us feel good and make us feel enjoy, we just shine differently.
I love that. Oh my gosh, we shine differently, and the way that we're meant to.
Like, you know, that compliment that someone gives you, that you're glowing, and it might not be glowing in terms of what society says is glowing. It's just in a different, it's like your energy is glowing, your emotions are glowing, and it just feels
good. Yeah, true. I love that. That alignment brings that glow, definitely. So what's the number of this gene key that's this life's work of yours with the shadow of superficiality?
I've got it in here. I don't know if off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure it's number 32.
Yeah, cool. And so what's the gift for this gene key?
It's leadership. I think it's enlightened leadership. Something around, I could have the actual words wrong, but
I'll look.
Yeah, it's about, yeah, thank you. Like
preservation is the gift. 32, did you say? Oh no, this is the wrong one. Shadow failure.
I've got it. Yeah, I've got it written down.
I have the gene key 31, which is that arrogance one coming through.
Oh, really? What's the gift? I'll find mine, but while you've got yours, what's the gift and shadow of yours? I always love understanding the kind of link between the two.
So my actual life's work is 49. So the 49 is something to do with reaction, I think. Yeah, the shadow is reaction, and the gift is revolution, and the city is rebirth. So it's changing the world from the inside. So like becoming who I'm meant to be, and not just reacting to everything around me, but reacting when it's relevant, and allowing that to move into like revolution. Every time I've read this one though, I'm like, oh, this is a lot. I don't know. I relate.
What did you? Okay.
I was gonna say I related a lot the most when I read to do with my attraction, like in my love profile part, which is the first gene key, beauty.
And that's on the beauty's on the
yeah. But reading the beauty in the Gene Keys book, and it being like the yang trigram, and there was a lot in there talking about needing to take rest, and like entropy is the shadow. So it's like this, like needing to like take time and rest and like nothingness to build up enough energy so then I can express my freshness, and then that leads to beauty. And when I read that, I remember I was going through an experience in my life where I was feeling like I'm not pushing out enough. Like everyone, you know, it's that comparison thing of like showing up even online, like I need to create this and I need to create that. And when I'm in creation mode, like things just flow out of me. But then once that like moves, then I actually need to take that time of entropy to rebuild before like I push out new creation again. And it was really gratifying for me to read that, because part of me was like trying to push myself to do something, but I was in that stage of entropy and I needed to like have that ebb and flow.
Yeah, I love that.
So yeah, when I read that, it was very powerful for me. I was like, oh, it's actually okay that sometimes I need to rest. But you know, there's just like that we want to push and we want to do, and we see everyone doing the things, and it's like, oh yeah, because like our nature is like we are creators and we want to create, but sometimes we need like the rest in between.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I meant before with having that space to contemplate rather than either, you know, just constantly doing. And for me, that really hit a nerve, because I thought that, yeah, I'm either trying to come up with an idea or put something out there, and that's not the way that creativity works. You know, that's the way that maybe structure or structures in the past that I've worked in has worked, but creativity is a whole different essence.
Yeah, it's like it makes me think of like sitting in a corporate boardroom and a manager's like, okay, we need a solution
Yeah,
to this thing, and where everyone's like spitting out their ideas, but it's not actually from no one, it's not actually birthing through like true creativity or through true alignment because it's so head driven that like the heart's not being led in that moment. Yeah, really, I really resonate. I think that's been like a big thing for me. Like, I mean, as the other thing that all my clients come to me for is how do I connect more into my yin essence and be more like rest time and things like that. And it's like I find it, that I do find balance in that, but I still experience the polarity of that at the same time. It's like it's always when we experience like one thing, we're often experiencing the exact polarity of that at the same time. I've been really, really noticing that at the moment with
yeah.
everything that's happening in the world.
And that's why I love, if we think about the business side of things, attraction
Mm.
style of marketing, where you're working with people who are drawn to wanting to heal that, because maybe it is your purpose, right? And so for you, it plays out more strongly or more often. But there are people who are wanting to heal that part of them, and that's what they're coming to you for. They're coming to you for that piece that, yeah, you are absolutely vulnerable in the way that you navigate between the polarity, but at the same time, you've also got this healing essence of what has worked for you, because it comes across so strongly in life.
Yeah, and so that's why it's even in my attraction spot. Is that what you're saying? Ah, see.
Oh no, I'm saying like why people come,
Yeah.
why people would come to you in the first place and see that in you. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's funny though, because it is in my attraction in the Gene Keys.
There you
Maybe
go.
we just
Links.
discovered something. Deeper
Yeah.
levels.
So my gene key, it's 52, not 32.
52, yeah.
And that was more around, so the it's where superficiality plays out, but it's the shadow is stress, and it's like this constant fear, being in a state of fear.
Yeah. So you're like constantly
And
like trying to show up about external stuff rather than
yeah,
the connection internal. Yeah.
but it links
And
to my purpose, which is the I guess difference between the shadow, which is inadequacy, and the
yeah.
wisdom, which is the enlightened part or the gift.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
so I
you
think
could
a
see
really
how
big,
those, yeah. So they're like how they and it would be so interesting looking at the interplay of like these different connector or these different keys or whatever. I never know exactly what to call them. Like, are they keys? Are they codons? Are they just the numbers,
whatever,
trigrams? I don't know.
I guess whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what like I always think about as well with the gene keys, like there are obviously different keys that play out in our collective consciousness at any given time. Where are you noticing, if you have, like where we're kind of being led to tapping into in alignment with those at the moment?
I feel like it came up with one of my clients recently, and it's the Great Awakening, the awakening of humanity and the awakening of human consciousness. I can't remember what her number was.
Is that 55? I think because I was listening to
definitely towards the end.
Yeah, I was listening to one this morning, which was we'll get into in a sec, but 55 and 59 I think go together.
Yeah, there was a really big link between her two. I do a chart for when I have a client. I kind of do a one-pager on what comes up for them.
Yeah,
they were so intertwined. It was so interesting.
and so like I was listening to 59 this morning, which is dishonesty is the shadow, and the gift being intimacy. And it was just so powerful, I feel like, for what we're having this experience in our reality right now. And it talks a lot about dishonesty, like within your own self and projecting trauma onto other people. And when we pick like something wrong with the other person, that it's usually there's a dishonesty within ourselves. Because what will eventually happen when we move through that is that love is like the just pouring out of us, and we can experience this intimacy with all beings without needing them to be different than where they're showing up in each moment.
Absolutely.
And I just felt like that's so relevant.
I love that.
Right now.
I love that, because I think that, you know, the kind of negative parts that come out of our society, you know, the gossip and the judgment and all of that kind of stuff is completely, you know, dishonest when we think of human beings, because if we're trying to pick something or judge something or dramatize something about someone else, really there's a part of us that doesn't feel, and that's how I relate it to my gene key, adequate. And so we're deciding to elevate ourselves in a way that is quite cynical. And that never, that's like junk food, right? That never actually is sustainable. It might feel good at the time because you think, ooh, I'm on this little high because I've just lowered someone else, when in reality, that high is going to be so short-lived. So it's about finding that way to, you know, actually the pureness, the love, the intimacy that comes from that.
Yeah. And then the city of that is transparency. So it's like when we stop shifting the blame to everything outside of us and we let ourselves truly like work through our own shit and trauma, like the level of transparency, it's like, it makes me think of what our, you know, earth consciousness could become like at the end of the day, like that we're all so transparent with each other, that there's just no dishonesty because we're so connected to our hearts. Like, I feel like that's what we're meant to be working towards.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there, what are the other aspects of when you look at someone's gene keys that like you would be highlighting for them?
When I make I dive deep into spending some time into, you know, their path of self-illumination, I try to give them a way that's possible for them to navigate through that. Mm-hmm. And so some of the things that I bring up or I look deeper into is, so their genius, what's coming through as their genius. Yeah. Obviously their shadow, mm-hmm. Their gift, their success, which is usually the kind of the thing that goes with the shadow. So moving through what success means to you in your life's work is moving past your shadow and really accepting that. And then purpose. So they're the 5 that I generally help people dive into. And like I say to all of my clients, it's not necessarily like these words aren't you, but we'll pull at threads in you, and let's dive deep into bringing that to the surface, because they're buried somewhere in your subconscious, and these words are sparking something.
Yeah. Do you feel that most people, like, they just feel this spark with when you're connecting in that way, and then it helps them to delve deeper into like the way that they could be showing off in their truest essence, like which most people tend to struggle with? Is that what you're noticing?
Absolutely. So I think it for some people it's good because it kind of validates a little bit deeper to where they're kind of heading, and really helps them understand, like they feel joy in this, whatever it is, in this word or gene key or place in their life for a reason. It's not just random. There is a deeper meaning behind it, but it also helps people not feel shit about themselves. Like we all have a shadow that we're working through. We all have, the light and the darkness inside of us, and you're not a bad person because of that. It's actually something that once you bring it to the surface and work through it, then you can completely become that enlightened version of who you're meant to be. Because the shadow just creates certain darknesses that we push to the side, and we impression manage the other good, I'll put in quotation marks, good parts of us, when really it's the whole being. And that's the vulnerability piece, being able to actually admit that is huge for people, I think.
And the shadow gives us depth. It's what gives us the depth. It's so, so important. It's like,
absolutely,
where I always think about, like, when I'm such like a health freak that when I like bring children in, I want them to like not go through all these health issues I've gone through, and my partner and I are the same. But at the same time, like, I can't decide what that child's like difficulties so that they can move through their shadow into having that depth to find their enlightenment. Like, what's it been like for you, like going through pregnancy and all the things that you connect in with your purpose, and like what lights you up, and helping people like step into that more? What do you feel like has helped you like shifting like with your own self through this pregnancy, but then also maybe how you want to show up as a mum, helping people in that way?
It's a very good question. I think that one of the things that comes to mind is this element of perfectionism, and how that shows up for me. And I think that's a little bit about, you know, that superficiality that I was talking about, that if everything's perfect, then no one's going to question me and I'm not going to feel inadequate, which is the other side of my gene key. When in reality, it's this idea of perfectionism is never actually achieved, and it will constantly show up as a feeling of inadequacy throughout our lives. And I think that that's the part that, you know, I'm learning about, and that's the part that I am really, I guess I really have dived deeper into it, because I do not want to project perfectionist onto my son.
Yeah, that's just so powerful in itself. Like, I think that I live in a world of a lot of recovering perfectionism. And it's like, again, is this polarity with this, even the word perfect, because in the truth of like perfectionism, like everything is, we can look at everything is perfect as it is, but then also that like there's so much beauty in the imperfection at the same time. And then you play into this like extremes of that as well. I really like that that's something that you're going to impart onto, or not impart onto your son, or that, you know, you're perfect as you are, no matter what conditions.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, that's where that unconditional love comes from. There's no conditions on, I don't want any conditions on my love. I think that, you know, being a parent, this sense of unconditional love is even more important, because creating that space for another human to grow and feel completely comfortable does rely on unconditional love. You know, they get too many conditions from society's expectations of who they are and what they're here to be, that you know, that sense of unconditional love that comes from the home is, you know, most pure. But I think about, you know, when I think of connection, I think that we don't relate to people who are perfect, or who are, again in quotation marks, try to portray this image of perfection to the world. I think about anyone that I've connected to the most, I've connected to through vulnerability, like connected to through realness. And I think that everyone thinks that if we put ourselves on this pedestal to the world, then people are going to like us more, when in reality, the sense of vulnerability and the sense of being able to share what's really going on is the true sense of human connection, I think.
Yes. Just writing that down. That's so good. That connection, with the vulnerability is really like what drives. And I feel that when we are in our true self and we're just who we are in each given moment, embracing and accepting all of these facets of our shadow or our gifts, we don't even need to try and be vulnerable in that moment, because we just are ourselves, and that's what's innately worthy, and that's what's innately beautiful, and that's what's innately, you know, perfect, if we want to use that word, of and appreciative of loving. Like, not that we, even if we aren't those things though, we're still worthy of those of love and all of that. But I feel that we really feel embodied in that experience of knowing our truth, our high purpose, and having that deeper understanding of who we are when we're just in that level of truth and that vulnerability.
Absolutely. I think that's why our souls are on a similar journey and like to connect with each other, because, you know, that's something that comes up in your purpose, and it's definitely something that comes up in mine. So that interconnection is beautiful.
And so what sort of things do you give to people for their integration of like connecting with acting on this higher purpose or having this perspective? Or is it more just getting a deeper understanding so that they can kind of ruminate and move through what feels right for them?
So I guess I do, I'm a conversationalist. I like to give people space to talk about what's going on in their mind with the tools of questioning. So I find that, you know, asking questions and holding space, particularly if we think about it as a container of time, you know, people don't have that gift to be able to sit with themselves and really say the things that are going on in their mind in a safe place. And it's so freeing to be able to watch someone connect the dots with why perhaps they've felt a certain way or projected things in a certain way, or like I said before, the peeling back the layers of the onion is really important to me, because I think that once someone understands who they truly are, they'll create a life around what works for them, instead of trying to be someone else, you know, look at someone else's body and trying to achieve that, or look at someone else's career or the way they run their life and trying to achieve that. It's like, no, we bring you back to who you are. And so you can feel that true sense of alignment without that feeling of comparison. So I would say that it's holding the space and the time of a container of time for people. And that's generally what I do in my coaching business. It's either a once-off or a 12-week container where we dive deep into peeling the layers back. Now, I might have things that I send them after, or tools, or some particular notes that I've taken. I'm not really a big note taker because I don't think it's a corporate space, but at the same time, if there's something that's jumped out to me that I'm seeing as a reoccurring kind of theme, I'll ask that person for permission to let them know what I've noticed.
I love that. And I feel holding space is just something that a lot of people don't even know how to do that for themselves, let alone for other people. I definitely witness this in the women's circles that I love doing, is like when we actually allow someone to have space held for them, that a lot of the time they're able to have these like pings and like realizations about themselves or about the way that they need to approach it, and just asking the right questions and then just allowing that active listening to like come through is so powerful. And we need more people doing that. So I that excites me to hear that that you do that with your clients. And I know that like your program is called Rise, and it's just like every time I see you post like the different things you're doing, I'm like, oh, that just sounds magical. I want to do that. I'm such like what, I don't even know what it is. I like, oh, it's so bright and shiny. And I love the language that you use. I'm such like a language kind of person as well. So I really feel that hits someone. And that's also why I think Instagram has been such a powerful tool for your platform, is because your language is just so reaching people in that spark. And that's probably also why Gene Keys just like hits as well for you, because it's this language that's like hitting people in the right places. It's really cool.
Very much. It's something that I've dealt with my life, that I've always been called, you know, I'm really very true to the star sign of Cancer. So always been called sensitive my whole life. You're too sensitive and you just need to kind of harden up and deal with the world the way it is. But I always felt like, no, I enjoy being sensitive in a way that's, you know, not enough people are dealt with in a sensitive way. We've got this too much of this, just harden up and deal with it. And that's just the way life is. And it's like, have we ever stopped to listen to how someone's feeling? Or have we ever stopped to listen to, like you said before, that active listening? We don't, you know, there's two types of listening to actually hear someone, or listening to wait till they stop talking, or maybe not even sometimes, and just respond to what they're saying, because it's that constant go, go, go. So that's where I feel like this element of sensitivity is really pure in this space. And like I said, it's something that I've dealt with for so long, but finding a space that it actually is again, I don't like positive, negative, but I'm going to say a positive element to me has been huge. Because when I don't get to display my sensitivity, I'm, you know, I come across as perhaps abrupt or blunt, and that's because I haven't been able to display who I really am. And I think that that's what happens to a lot of people. We harden up and we become this person that we're not real. We're truly not. We're truly not that person, and without the space to be able to be soft, we've just got, you know, humans that are hard and don't listen and just constantly trying to achieve. And yeah, definitely found myself.
Or and just wearing masks to, like, I mean, I don't even mean that, you know, in the punny way that actually is right now, but in the sense of like feeling like you need to wear a mask to be loved or to be accepted, because no one's ever truly able to see like all the facets of your sensitive self. And yeah, so much of the world is wearing masks at the moment, whether or not physical.
And I think our emotions, you know, to be tune with someone else's emotions or even your own, an element of sensitivity does need to come in, because we're feeling them. And if we break down the word of sensitive, it's a sense to sense. And if we can't actually sense, then we're just going in blinded. We're not given a map of life, or we're not shown the way to do it. But if we go inward and we feel what feels good versus what feels icky, then that's our guide, that's our navigation. And that's what I feel that, tools on the outside help with.
Yeah. And I really love that being the guide of like following like what feels good, and not for like just a momentary like pleasure moment. Like you were saying, like don't pick the junk food option that feels good momentarily and then afterwards it's not good. It's like follow like what actually feels really good through your whole body, and like make your choices and steps through your path that way, because that's really in alignment. I really like that. Don't choose the
difference between don't. There's a huge difference between I feel because I feel better than versus I feel good because this feels just intuitively good to me.
Yeah. There's the real alignment right there. It feels like when I see it in my mind, it looks like sparkly stars when you say it in that way.
The place that we used to go to as parties when we were younger, it's called Fairy Fields, I think. And it's all about like this magical environment. It's like glitter and just sparkles and floaty. And
oh my gosh, that's so cool. You would get along with Jade, who I had on the podcast a few sessions ago.
Oh, really?
She's very like, let's be like sparkly. It's great. I have a few questions that I ask everyone when they come on, and we've already identified, you've stepped up and identified one of the questions that I'm going to ask you first. What is your sun, moon, and rising signs, if you know them?
Yeah, I do. So my sun is Cancer. Moon is Gemini, and my rising and my rising is Sagittarius, which is so interesting because that's what my baby boy is going to be. He's going to be a sun. Obviously don't know the rest because we don't know the time like that, but his sun is Saggy, so I'm excited for that connection.
That's exciting. Oh, Saggies are so fun. I knew, you know what, like earlier I was thinking, I'm like, surely you know how like you have some Gemini in there, because that just with the Cancer, like you've got so many Gemini elements coming out. Like, I don't know, intuitively I feel that. So it's funny. I was like, I knew that there was some Gemini.
It's an interesting one when I read about it, but it's also like I said, I'm encompassing the full part of that internal Gemini that I have. But it's interesting because I was about 4 weeks premature, so I was technically on a due date meant to be a Leo, but for some reason, the universe aligned and was like, you're definitely not a Leo. You're a Cancer, and that's what I meant by hard shell but soft interior.
Yeah, your soul chose that. Your soul was like, no, this is what I want to be in this life. What's your favorite fruit?
Oh gosh, I was actually talking to Harry, my husband, about this the other day. So my top 3 are pineapple, mango, and passion fruit. But if I had to pick one, it would probably be passion fruit. I'm obsessed with passion fruit.
A good passion fruit is just like the flavors that you experience just don't taste like anything else.
The fact that Earth makes something like a passion fruit just is wow.
It's probably why I experience so much gratitude every day. I'm like, how did the earth make this fruit I'm eating? It's just what?
I always think
so
fruits on yours, on your page, or on what you're up to. So what's your favorite?
Ooh, I can't go past a mango, but
mango.
If I could get like a perfect papaya, that is honestly the best fruit, I think. But it's very hard to find like that perfect papaya unless you're in the tropics. And so therefore mangoes are always my choice. But I recently tried a tamarillo and I'm obsessed. Have you ever had tamarillo?
No.
They kind of like look like they're in the tomato family, but they're like, think of like that rich heirloom, like meatiest tomato. I know that you have like Italian background, so like think of like that really rich, almost like it's been roasted a little bit, in like just a fruit like that already.
Oh, wow.
It's so good.
The juiciness, I can feeling like the salivating because of the
yeah, you'll have pregnancy cravings for Tamarillo and you never even tried it before.
One of these. One of the fruits that I never tried, but I tried through your inspiration, was custard apple. Love.
Have you had good ones? Yeah. You got to, when you find a good one, really good. I'm on the custard apples at the moment. They're most days at the moment.
Yeah, no,
and yellow kiwis also get me through the summer. I mean the winter.
They're such a hidden gem, yellow kiwis. If you haven't tried a golden or yellow kiwi, get onto it.
Yeah, so I mean, if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably, do you know how many people have told me that they were inspired to try yellow kiwis and got obsessed just from me posting it like every day last year? I was like, oh well. Would you rather the ocean or the forest?
I'm gonna say the forest.
You're breaking away from your Cancerian roots.
I know. I love the ocean, but there's something about just the way that trees grow and all the different species of nature, and the quietness of the forest that is really dreamy to me.
Yeah, I concur.
It also could be could be because I'm in Melbourne and
yeah.
the
find a forest
the image
near
that I'm getting
it's not so exciting right now. Yeah. If you could experience one moment in your life again, what would you pick to go back to?
So my partner and I have been on this journey together of, going inward and finding more about ourselves. And I remember this time that we went away to the Dandenongs or Olinda, and it's interesting that it was in a forest type of environment. But it's like time was just, it collapsed. It was like, it was the fastest thing, but also the slowest thing in a good way. And I just remember sense of there is nowhere else that I'd rather be right now. And I don't have much. I just have my partner here, a beautiful little cabin, opposite of what everything I thought was an ideal kind of space or time. And it was just this feeling of waking up and making coffee together and just being. We had the fireplace going, and it was just so nice to be with each other without having things to do or running around to different, when you go on a holiday, it's kind of like go, go, go. But it was just a beautiful time.
Oh, that's so beautiful. There's so much beauty in that simplicity, isn't there? Like, that's where you really feel that, when you can feel that gratitude and appreciation in those moments. It's like, yes. Yeah. So beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Is there a certain plant or flower or herb that you like to work with the most?
I mean, not really. Nothing that comes to mind. I mean, I've always used. I don't know what the professional or proper way to say it is, but I've always used CBD or THC in a healing way. I think that the world sees it in a way that's like a negative drug, and I think that maybe the abuse of it has come across that way. But I think that pre-pregnancy, I was taking drops that were both different styles of the plants, and I think that the thoughts and the way that things integrated in my mind and the way that I was able to show up and go away and have things to contemplate about was just pretty magical. So I just wish that society viewed it in a different way and viewed it as medicine rather than as something that's around for people to numb out on.
Yeah, I think it is shifting, but yeah, there's still a lot of that old doctrination and things being illegal as long and in that alignment. Yeah, that's really beautiful though. What's your favorite crystal?
Oh, I love rose quartz. So I have my rings. So my wedding ring and engagement ring, the two that go together, sitting on this beautiful rose quartz. And I just love that it's about love for me, and the fact that my rings are energized when they sit on that crystal, and in a beautiful box with my other crystals behind me. Oh, you can't, on a podcast you can't see what's behind me, but behind me is a like a little altar table that's got all of my crystals together in one box, and my rings sit in there.
So beautiful. I love crystals, especially rose quartz. Rose quartz is that unconditional love.
There you go.
Of course. What's your spirit animal, or if you're an animal, who would you be?
This is a hard one.
Maybe just at the moment. Sometimes it can change, can't it?
Yeah, I'd probably say at the moment a puppy. A puppy, because it's really I don't know, when you feel like when you're going through pregnancy, like this element of control is like gone, or this sense of control that you get to plan and go a certain way is just completely out the window. Like I remember my first trimester was just completely not what I really wanted it to be. I was always into exercising and eating healthy, and I always told myself that I would throughout my first trimester, and I literally was so sick that the thought of eating anything green was made me sick, and also any kind of movement, like I wasn't able to move much other than going for a walk every now and then. So I think this element of puppies are so just what they want to be and who they are, and this element of playfulness. So I think that's probably what I'd say. And I'm trying to bring that.
I love that,
especially to my second trimester, that things, when my child comes into this world, like there's going to be things that aren't going to be the way that I've thought them to be, and just embody the way that it kind of is.
Yeah, I think puppies, like, they love you so unconditionally, and you end up loving dogs so unconditionally as well, because they mess up but you still love them at the end of the day. So they're always like that great reminder of what unconditional love looks like.
There you go. It's come up as a theme today.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you and I connecting over unconditional love. I'm down for it. Is there, if people want to get in touch with you or they want to work with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I would probably say Instagram is my main platform, and then I usually have conversations in DMs, or if we want to go the traditional way, through email. But I would probably say my Instagram, and then we can chat in DMs around if working with me is something that feels right, or even just to chat. I'm here to serve and just love connecting to like-minded people. So my Instagram handle is at Dani _LoCastro_.
I'll put it in the notes. Yeah, that's perfect. Well, I've loved this conversation about unconditional love, letting go of that perfectionism, accepting all facets of ourselves, and embracing our shadow and embracing it as part of our beautiful being, and navigating to integrate that into our life and move through whatever that feels like. So like that kind of sums everything up. But is there anything last thing that you want to say before we say goodbye?
I guess I just want to say thank you for providing me the container to be able to speak so freely, because I think that when we connect, we always I love the fact that we go deep, and like the feelings that I have I just feel completely in my heart and in joy, and that's why I love that word. It's like joy and enjoy, and I've really enjoyed our experience together.
Thank you so much. I feel very, very blessed for our connection, and I'm sure that everyone else is being blessed for being able to listen as well. Feeling that gratitude and appreciation. Thank you for being such a light in this world, Dani.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for connecting with me.
No worries.